Engine 1 for Car 1. Car 1's on scene. Assume in command. Give me a C.A.N report.
What's going on, everybody? This is Stickers of the C.A.N report. Mazel tov, everybody. I have David Hall in my house, upstairs in my recording studio. So I normally don't do in-person stuff, but this is an exception because it's David Hall and he's been doing such a great job in New Hampshire. And I wanted to meet up with him and have this great discussion. David, thank you so much for being on the C.A.N report.
It's my pleasure. This is the first time I've ever done anything like this, so it's new to me. So maybe you can edit out all the mumbles and fumbles.
We'll do our best for both of us. Before I start my program, I always want to make sure that people know they can subscribe, they can like. Let me know that you're liking this. Let me know that you're listening. It helps to have this program grow with you doing your feedback. So make sure you are hitting that like button or just message me. If there's somebody you want on, let me know. If you've got a great story to tell, let me know. We'll make it happen. Anybody in New Hampshire, if you're looking to get your word out of your trainings that you're doing or you've got a story to tell, hit me up. I'd love to get you on the C.A.N report. I also want to give a big shout out to my sponsor, Engine House Designs. If you're looking for any shirts, hats, flags, you name it, Engine House Designs has got it. He's out of Memphis, Tennessee. He's doing great work out of there. So give him a shout out. Check him out and see what they're all about. Engine House Designs, igniting the pride. With that being said, we're going to start our program. So, David Hall, my man, Franklin Deputy Chief, tell me a bit about yourself.
Well, I've been in the fire service for about 26 years, give or take. I started in 1999 in Maine, took a year off, moved to New Hampshire. 2001, started in Belmont as a on the call company, and in 2003 I was lucky enough to get hired in Tilton Northfield Fire and EMS, and spent 15 and a half years there, most of those as a fire officer. That department grew really fast. There was a lot of changes, which was good. Everything was positive for the most part. And then almost 7 years ago now, I got the opportunity to go to the city of Franklin, which was right next door. So we're a comparable community. We're a department that works closely together with my former fire department. So, the people, the area, everything really fit well together, I think, for me anyway. Hopefully everybody else thinks so too. So that's my fire service career. I started, I was in the military. So some people know this, but I was in EOD, which is the bomb squad. And when I got out of the military, I went to college and I was, hemming and hawing. And in the state of Maine, where I'm from, in order to be on the bomb squad, so to speak, same as New Hampshire, you have to be a state trooper. And then, so I was like, okay, I'll go to college for criminology. I'll take that route. Well, I spent one semester in criminology. I think it was one class. And I said, no, that's not for me. And, I had some exposure to the fire service. I had a couple of best friends in high school. Both their dads were firemen. One of them grew up also to be a fireman and is a fire chief in a small town called Monmouth, Maine. I'm able to catch up with him at a couple conferences here and there. And he's also a fire investigator for insurance companies. Or insurance companies, I'm not sure which. So, I don't know what motivated me eventually, but it was that I didn't want to be a police officer. Being in the military, I really enjoyed it.
What branch of the military?
I was in the Army.
Okay.
Yep. So right out of high school, I went in the Army, spent 3 years there, and I was fortunate, not unfortunate, whatever, enough to go to Somalia, kind of in between tragedies. So there wasn't a lot of really bad things happening when I was there. But I got to do some really fun things. We did an explosion that was 100,000 pounds
wow.
Of ordnance. So it was kind of really neat. I got pictures of that in my office. It's pretty cool. So I had a lot of fun. And then when I got out, I took an EMT class right when I was in college. And then I joined the fire science program at what used to be Southern Maine Technical College. I think it's University of Southern Maine now or something like that. And then I also took a bachelor's degree at the same time, so on the GI Bill. So that paid for all of that stuff and gave me the time and opportunity to just sit down and get my education.
Wow.
I moved to New Hampshire, joined the volunteer fire department right away, spent a lot of time there after work and just hanging out and paying attention to to who was there and what we were doing. Had a really good experience there, and a couple of years later, I was fortunate enough to get hired. Not even with all my certs, kind of like where we're at today, at least in my area. We're hiring people that aren't quite certified.
Yeah.
So at the time, I was lucky enough to get hired with. I don't even think they were requiring CPAT before hiring at that point. So I got my CPAT a few months after I got hired.
Yeah.
Now you can't do that. You have to have your CPAT first. So.
But now they're doing with the CPAT. It's now like a conditional offer now. Like you don't necessarily have to have it going in. Some departments like, okay,
Right.
I know you don't have it yet. Conditional offer. We're going to hire you. Go get your CPAT, and then you're in.
Yep. Well, and we'll do that too if we know that that's coming and they have all their other certs or they're working on their certs. So I want to say there's been a couple people where we've said, hey, as long as you pass, you get hired, and I've handed somebody a badge at the CPAT. So that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Because you're waiting for them at the finish line. And, it's embarrassing if they don't make it, but when they do make it.
Yeah.
And, we've had a couple people, that struggled through it, but they made it. They made it through the test, and we were able to offer them that badge at the end. So that's kind of an exciting time.
That is awesome. Yeah, that is very cool. So you did the volunteer, you said, and then you got your CPAT, and then how long were you a volunteer before you decided to go career?
Just a couple years. So I spent a year, like I said, I spent a year in Maine, almost a full year at a fire department, Windham, Maine. And I learned a ton of stuff there. It was a lot of fun. I just happened to move out of state for various life reasons. So I had to take a break. But when I finally settled down in Belmont, New Hampshire at the time, went right to the fire station, said, hey, I want to sign up. And they were like, cool, sign me up. The day I went in to get my gear, or that afternoon or whatever day it was, they got a call for a partition fire, and I barely even knew anybody yet. And the Lieutenant Tom Murphy, who just retired this past year, a year and a half ago, he looked at me. He's like, "Are you coming?" I'm like, "I don't know. Can I?" He's like, "Can you wear an air pack?" Yes. He's like, "Come on." So that was my first real experience here, and going to a fire, and it was just fun, and
It's just stuck with you.
Yeah,
that bug. That's awesome. And so you seem to obviously still have that passion because you teach as well. You're a staff instructor for the New Hampshire Fire Academy. How long have you been a staff instructor?
I think 2005 or maybe late 2005. I don't remember exactly when. Somewhere in the 2005, 2006 era, I got hired. I took fire. Back then, they were rolling all the classes into one. So fire officer 1 and 2 were always together. Fire instructor 1, 2, and 3 were always together. They've since gone back to splitting that up because not everybody wants all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I was able to get all of that stuff very, very quickly. My fire chief, Steve Carrier, at the time allowed me to do any training I wanted. I was new officer in a growing department I was very young and I didn't know anything. I really didn't. So I needed to figure out how to keep myself learning and understanding and learning from different people. So being an instructor was the best way to do that. You learn from a ton of people. Your current instructors, sometimes you learn from your students.
Yeah.
So it was really a very dynamic. And so I that's what I did. I did a lot of other research, did a lot of stuff. We were very, very fortunate to have a ton of acquired structures in my early years. And my partner and I did a lot of training. I mean, we broke stuff. We climbed ladders. We bailed out of windows. We had just 2 on shift for a while, so it was just 2 of us. So we'd deploy hose lines, get a call, disconnect it from the truck, go on a call. And it was tough sometimes, but we got it all in. And, there was a website, I think it's still active now, bententersearch.com.
Oh, yeah.
And back in the 2004, 5, 6, 7 range, 8 range, whatever, they were posting a lot of training videos and a lot of stuff. And so I got a lot of stuff from there. YouTube was starting to pick up. I forget where Chief Rob Wiley was from, but he had a little 3-minute video training. And so I watched that all the time for just different opinions and stuff like that, different learnings, and he'd show a video of somebody. So we spent a lot of time just learning and training, and I tried to make it a point every shift when I was an officer to do something. Doesn't have to be a big thing, but it has to be something.
Yeah, learn something every day.
And then eventually, once we had more people on shift and I got a little more experience, then you could pass that down to your staff. So what do you want to do today? You bring something to the table. You teach us something. So
And that got you more motivated to start just really hitting the ground with being a staff instructor. Because again, you've been doing it since 2005, and you obviously still love it. You love teaching. I get to teach with you, and I love learning from you.
Honestly, teaching is so much fun for me, and just to be able to help somebody get through a struggle, or to help somebody understand why it's important. I'm a big fan of passion. If I ever interview you for your department, I've done that a couple times. I'm going to ask you about passion, so put that on your list of questions to answer.
Noted.
Yeah. So I've done a bunch of lieutenant exams, assistant chief exams, or promotional stuff, and I want you to prove to me in words how you are still passionate.
Yeah.
Everybody in the fire service, most people I'll say, but most everybody loses their passion at some point in their career. Or they have a low spot. It tends to be between the 4 and 7 year mark. So if you could find a way to stay invigorated, or just stay in the loop, family, kids, you have kids, all of that takes priority. And sometimes people fall in that trap and they just lose sort of what they fell in love with.
Do you, out of experience, I imagine, do you have any advice, or what worked for you to keep that going after that hump?
I think, I did a lot of stuff really fast, and then I just kept doing stuff. I think what you have to do is pace yourself, find a good rhythm for you. I think if there's something you always wanted to do, go to FDIC, for example. If you go to FDIC, in your first year or two, you might not get everything you would get if you went when you were 20 years in. But at 4 to 7 years, if you could do a trip like that, or go to the National Fire Academy, or do something outside of your norm in a time where maybe you need a little push. For me, one of the things that helped was the Grabs podcast a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't necessarily in a rut, but I want to say that there was just something exciting about going back to episode 1 and listening to them all the way through, and listening to 2-person departments and, 20,000 person departments make rescues, and how they handled it and what they did. There was just something about that really calls to me. There's a new push, well, I say new push, but a push the last several years about, rescuing people, and we're here for them. We want to be able to rescue people, right? That's what we do. We save property, but we save people first. And if our mentality is any different, which I think it was for a while, it was our safety is the most important thing, no matter what, and damn everything else.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's the right approach either. And I think some of us, when we were coming through the fire service, we started to hear that. We started to hear we have to do our safety first. And although we do have to do our safety, and I'm obviously a big proponent of our safety is, very important. We want to go home, and we want to go home to our families, and we want to bring our people home, and we want to keep them safe at all costs. But sometimes this job is dangerous.
Yeah.
And we train our whole lives to do the one thing some of us never get to do.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
If we think we're here for another reason, so then we probably could start thinking about Walmart or something. I don't know. But the one time we should be dedicated to what we might have to do that one time. Because if not, we're the ones that are going to get hurt, for our partners.
Yeah.
So that's where I like to kind of bring our training and steer our training. And we have to remember, like, we have to start somewhere. So we can't all be, 20-year engine company nozzlemen. That's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
So when we get somebody new, we get somebody on the floor, they got to go through, hey, how do I adjust a hydrant? How do I get in and out of the truck? How do I put my gear on? Even though you've gone through the fire academy, you're like,
there's some small things that, especially, we told generational, right? The generation doesn't know this, and the generation doesn't know that. When I came up this, and I came up that, and I've seen it though, where there is a shift. Like, there's things that were taught in school that's not taught anymore. And then when they come to us, they need us to teach them. And honestly, the simplest of things: how to shine your boots, how to dress an envelope.
Yeah.
Those are things that are not taught in school nowadays. So, because they don't need to write letters anymore, and they don't need to balance a checkbook anymore.
Chat GBT or whatever,
right?
And AI will print it out for you, and you take out the couple little edits you got to make. And you're done.
Yeah.
I only just did that a couple of times recently. One of my officers told me, "Hey, just put it in there." I'm like, "Oh, I'll try that. I've never done it before." But but yeah, so like it's so easy to just not have to do that stuff or know it really, but in order to have a little bit of context, you have to understand what it is you're reading and putting into that little machine.
And now that we're on that topic, as now if you've started 26 years ago, starting as a volunteer, starting in small town communities, and then now into a bigger city, and seeing that generational shift, how do you connect with the younger people coming in?
I think it's important for us to just understand that these, no matter who comes in, what generation they are, they all have different experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the same when we started. Certain people were mechanically inclined, certain people weren't, certain people were exposed to this, certain people weren't. And I think it's the same in this generation. They're just exposed to different things and in different ways. If somebody hasn't been in the military, if somebody hasn't had some sort of sports affiliation, if somebody is just coming out of college and all they've done is high school, college, and that's all they know, it's an eye opener for people when they get into the recruit class or the community college class at the fire academy. They don't necessarily know what they're getting into, and I don't know that anybody really tells them. So I usually start out when I hire somebody. I say, hey, here's our values, here's our mission, here's our expectations. And by the way, do you realize that you're actually willing to give up your life for somebody else? Have you thought about that? Has anybody told you about it? Have you had a conversation? Because if you haven't thought about that for a while, that can be an odd thought for people. Not everybody wants to do that.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. It's a sombering thought, but it's important. And I don't think I've never really heard it brought that way. And that's important.
So I don't make any of this up, right? I learned it from other people. So, Chief Scott Thompson.
I love Scott. Yeah.
Out of Pine Colony.
Yeah.
I read his book, and so he started asking that in his interviews, and this wasn't that long ago. So, I've not that I've never thought about it, but because of that book, because of him, I actually listened to him at FDIC, one of his classes. And because of that, I now ask that, or I have that conversation, because I'm not there to judge somebody. I'm just there to, hey, you got to think about this. You think about this. This is about you. Hey, what if you're a new mom and all of a sudden, hey, that's a different thought for you.
Yeah.
Right. Or even I say new mom. What if you're a new dad?
Sure.
A new dad can have that same doubt. Be like, hey, I don't know if I can do this anymore.
Fatherhood, motherhood, that changes you entirely. And so you have the younger people that come in, and I think that's important, like real world talk, because again, we have social media and we have these avenues now where they can just see it in the palm of their hand. And I was having this conversation with guys out of my podcast, just the last one, and Captain Dan Nowell out of C.A.N. He made a good point that we have to be real with our new employees that it's not what you see on social media. It's not going to be fire blowing out of the floors, getting off the truck. Anyway. Right. It's not going to be, that's true. It's not going to be the John Wayne stuff all the time though. And it's going to be, you're going to have to get in the ambulance and pick up Mima off the floor. And, you're going to have to do the mundane things a lot more than pulling people out of windows.
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you. I miss some of that right now. So like I'll ask the guys if they're at lunch or they're really busy, they haven't had lunch, be like, hey, I'll go on that call for somebody. They're like, no, we got it. They don't want to give that up, which is good. But I miss that. Because that's instant satisfaction, right? If you ever sit at home and wonder, hey, am I satisfied? Does anybody ever care? Does anybody ever, really care what I do? When you go on calls like that, it's instant gratification because you see the help. They say thank you usually. Sometimes they write you letters. We get letters all the time from people that, hey, your crew was super. They were great.
Usually comes with baked goods.
Sometimes it comes with baked goods. But that's when you're on the floor and you're going to these calls, don't take that for granted. Absorb that. We are very modest. We don't like people to say thank you or give us an award. But I think we do. We just don't want to say that we do, right? People like and appreciate being appreciated, whether they tell you they do or not. So I think your original question before all this was, how do you deal or treat with people of a younger generation? I think you have to treat them as people. You have to allow them to ask questions. You have to understand that, they're approaching this from a totally different way than you ever did 25 years ago or 20 years ago. Um, you know, they want answers because they're curious. And if they're curious, that's a good thing because they're going to learn more, right? If they lose curiosity or you stub their curiosity, then they're not going to want to learn anymore.
Yeah.
It's not going to be any fun for them.
You just rifle off the way we've always done it and stop asking me questions.
And you got to take care of those people, right? So I believe in giving them the training that they need, and it's not always possible, right? Money gets in the way sometimes, but try to give them what they need. Try to give them what they want. Once they've gone through probation, what's going to be their new passion? What's their dream? Not everybody can be a master of every trade, but pick something. Pick a couple things that you're interested in. Try them out. Maybe you go to confined space rescue and you decide you hate it. That's okay.
Yeah.
Right? Just because you took the class doesn't mean you have to be the expert in it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of fields in this profession that you can pick, and sometimes it really hits you home. It's to your home, and you want to be more proficient in it and become a master of it, if you will. And there's others that's like hazmat's not my thing. Don't get me wrong, everybody. Like hazmat's important. I'm not saying it's not. So you seem like, again, I've always really taken to you because you have such a knack of being able to really calmly explain things to people and being able to connect with the younger crowd. And I watch you when you're instructing at the academy. Like I worked with you at extrication, it was a couple of years ago, and I think towards your neck of the woods, and we were doing extrication training, and man, you were just having so much fun. I was just watching everything, and I learned so much from you. I was a fly on the wall. I was just listening and watching. I felt like a gopher. Like, here's this tool, here's that tool. But watching you go to work on showing them how to cut cars, but then going above and beyond to make it just fun. It wasn't mundane, do this and do that and cut here, but you were giving the whys, you're giving the hows, and then, here, let's take this off just for shits and giggles. Let's take this off. Let's do that. And they all had a blast. And we got a group picture afterwards. Like, it was just a fun day. It was cold.
It was cold, yeah.
But it was a lot of fun. And that's really hit home. Those are the instructors for me. That's who that's the knowledge I want to absorb. That's the experience I want to give back to people. When we have good, solid instructors that truly care, have the passion, and give that back to our students.
I think that's key. And I think most people want to be an instructor, hopefully for the right reason. I did it because I needed to learn, and I needed to learn fast, right? I knew I didn't know a lot when I was, new and newly promoted and all that stuff. In fact, I remember the chief asking me, he's like, how do you, he promoted me, he said, hey, you're promoted. He's like, how do you feel? I said, honestly, chief, I'm pretty scared. He's like, I'd be shocked. I'd be surprised if you weren't, or I'd be concerned if you weren't, because you have to understand what it is that you're getting into.
Yeah.
You have to understand that there's a lot of things to take care of, and there's a lot of things to know, and there's a lot of things to fail at. Sometimes we can fail, and it's okay. We can learn from that. Sometimes we can't fail. Luckily, most of the times we can fail and recover from it. But,
Yeah.
And if we fail in training, which is why, if we take this apart or take that apart and see if it works, see if it doesn't work, then hopefully if you get out in the field somewhere and you'd be like, hey, I remember that didn't work last time because of this or that or whatever it is,
Yeah.
the anatomy of the car or the strength of the metal or the, positioning of the tool or whatever that particular case was. But I think it's important for us to, as instructors, or somebody, I don't do a lot of instructing right now for Fire Officer 1 or Fire Officer 2, for Firefighter 1 or 2, but I just happened to fill in at the Fire Academy a couple weeks ago, the Firefighter 1 block of the recruit school. It was their very first day of touching the hose. Some people have never touched a hose.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know what it's made out of. They just see it in the class or whatever the online portion is. And so we get out in the field and we put it on the truck and we pull it off the truck and we put it on the truck and we pull it off the truck. And that's not that much fun.
Yeah.
I mean, it's work. And so I start the class by telling, hey, this is a lot of work. And by the way, the next 3 classes you have, it's going to be a lot more work. And it just builds on what we're doing. And so by the end of the class, we were to the point where we were doing races, and we had 2 groups, and we had 4 groups, and they were able to race at the end, and one team won, obviously, and it was a big hurrah, and everybody had a lot of fun. And so not only did they have to pull the hose, the Fire Academy teaches one hose load. They had to pull the hose and repack the hose neatly. And if it wasn't neat, obviously it wasn't going to count. So I think they did it in 2 minutes and 39 seconds.
That's good.
And then the slowest group was like 3 minutes and less than 30 seconds. It was less than a minute difference between the 4 groups.
That's awesome.
So that's pretty good for people who just learned it. I'm sure we've all been on the fire truck when it takes somebody 20 minutes to pack a loose load.
That's why I love utilizing our newer people just for that. Like when we're doing like hose deployments, education, and I have somebody fresh out of the academy, I'll always ask them, hey, can you do this and show us?
Mm-hmm.
You've just learned this. You just did like 20 repetitions of pulling and packing and doing it under the clock. I know you know how to do this. So teach us. And because we have older members that haven't done it in quite some time, show us a new way. That's that buy-in, that's that passion, and give the new employees an option to present what they've learned. Just don't discount them because they're brand new, and because there's good people teaching them, and having those reps. And I love watching the new people pull hose because usually they do it really well, or at least for packing it, it's fantastic. They do really, really well with it.
Yeah, and we have to remember too as instructors that especially these recruit classes, we're just teaching them the very basics. Like there's 100 ways to do the same thing, and sometimes it's more efficient, sometimes it's not, and you can't teach them the 16 or 20 different things that you can do to make it better or worse. You just have to teach them the basics because eventually you got to move on to the next thing.
Yep.
So it makes it hard, especially with passionate instructors who want to teach everything they know. We just gotta remember that's not our place sometimes.
Yeah.
We have to teach the best skill within the scope of knowledge, right? So. It's very tough for a passionate instructor to be held back.
You want to unload. You just want to just give them everything. And then especially like you talked about, we go to these conferences, you go to these outside trainings, and you come back with all this knowledge. And as an instructor, you just want to vomit it right back onto them. And like you said, like there's only a limited time we have. They have to pass their tests. So there's things that, you have to check those boxes and make sure they're prepared because, they say, well, Mike taught me something completely different. I don't know how to do this. I'm like, oh, why'd you teach them something different? Oh, I was really passionate about this side of it.
Honestly, at the fire academy, we used to have to say, hey, you probably learned this differently yesterday, but today this is what we're doing. And that's not fair to them.
No.
And that, people still got through it and they learned, and then you get to your departments and you learn stuff. But, the less confusing you can make it, the better.
Absolutely. Right? Now, also with education, we were talking earlier, you also have is it a group or you have a collection of people that work with the Lakes Region Community College?
Yep. Yeah. So the Lakes Region Mutual Fire Aid Association, I don't know if they're up to 37 communities now, but our mutual aid compact area, we have a training committee. So it's an association basically formed by the Lakes Region Mutual Fire Aid. And then we're a sub-association. So they appointed us, and we try to make trainings happen in our area. And so the committee is responsible for, we've decided for the last 6 or 7 years, we've been doing a quarterly training. And that quarterly training started way before that, as a sort of a monthly training for officers only or for aspiring officers. Anyway, we're doing this quarterly training, and we work with the college, Lakes Region Community College, to use a space. They have the technology, they have a lecture hall. We think that the largest crowd we've had is 73 students or something like that in a 2-hour nighttime class, which is really cool. So we've had Steve DeRusso on there. We've had former Laconia Chief Ken Erickson, Dave Quick. Local people have taught stuff. And sometimes we get 20 people, which is still great. Sometimes we charge for a class. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes we have a spaghetti dinner with it. So once a year, we try to have a social event associated with it. One year we had Firematic came up, and they hosted a stabilization class. So we did that up in New Hampton, Bristol area. So we try to do a quarterly training, but we also try to do some other outside training. So we try to this year we did driver operator class. We hosted one because there was tons of people in the area that needed their commercial driver's license, and the driver operator class is the first step to pumping in aerial apparatus. So it only makes sense to try to put one of those classes on. So I had some really good instructor help putting that on. So we try to do something that the region needs. And we try to put on some things. And we've gotten at these 2-hour trainings. We've got people from Rhode Island, Maine.
Wow.
Just for a 2-hour training. They just drive up. It's really kind of awesome. Sometimes the people are in the area because it's summertime, or they're there for vacation or skiing, and they're like, "Oh, I'll just stay an extra couple days." And so it's been really interesting to see who comes to each class. The city of Laconia, the firefighters always come because it's in Laconia. If they're not on calls, they're very good about attending and participating in the program.
That's great.
So just trying to give props to the people that help make it all successful. The college has been a great partner. And so, with that, a couple of years ago, we started a conference, and this year was a very successful conference.
How many attendees did you have for that?
There was 130 something people signed up. I won't get the numbers right, but there was, I think there was 93 students, 21 instructors, and a bunch of vendors.
That's good.
And so the vendors are included as participants because, somebody's allowed to attend classes.
Sure.
If there's 2 or 3 of them and they want to go to a class here or there, they're allowed to do that.
And that's been going on for 3 years now?
This was the second annual one. The first one was the year before. So this one, the third one is already being planned. I believe it's September 12th, Saturday of next year. And so we're working on, updating the format, taking our suggestions. We'll be looking for instructors very soon. So it was pretty successful. I think we had really good feedback. We had some instructors from Houston, Connecticut, some different places, Boston.
Yeah.
So we had some really good speakers, and I think we had some really good classes. And we had some very local speakers too. Some local New Hampshire firefighter speakers.
Yeah.
So it was a really good experience. So hopefully next year we'll just keep making it better. Encourage people to sign up and come, especially the local people. But it's really for New Hampshire and New England folks.
Yeah.
So we're hoping to make it bigger than us, and maybe we can make it a larger event at some point and figure out how to manage that.
Yeah, because right now it's more classroom based because you don't have the grounds to make it a hands-on training conference as well.
Right. There are some options for doing that. The parking lot is wide open for us to go out. We just have to be able to set up and clean up. There are training grounds relatively nearby. Honestly, the Guilford Fire Department has a training site that's available for, I'll call it rent, but there are fire departments in the state that go up there and do some work. We just, in coordination with New England Fools, they just held a RIT class there this past weekend.
That's right.
So you could probably see that on Facebook somewhere, but they had a great class. They had somewhere around 30 students.
That's great.
And that facility is very good. Tilton Northfield has a little Connex training facility, which is pretty good. And then obviously there's always the fire academy. So like if there's something that, if it becomes so big and we can get some hands-on classes going, we just got to figure out timing, movement, structure.
Sure. Yeah.
So those are all things we hope to grow into for sure.
That was great though. When I was there, I thought the participation level was fantastic. The students seemed very eager to learn. Like you said, the presenters were top notch. The grounds it's at is everything was just really came into play. Everything like just clicked, and I loved seeing all the students there, especially if like said like it's not a big conference, but seeing the influx of students that came in, and they all were just like they were in it to win it. They were attentive and they were excited to learn.
And they're all different ages, right? So it's amazing to me that there's a 50 or 60-year-old, give or take. But then there's the 22-year-old, 23-year-old that just got in the fire service or just finished college or whatever. And I think that's pretty exciting. I think that's pretty
yeah.
neat.
And I saw students as well that were enrolled to the Lakes Region program for their fire program. So it was great to see students there participating in it and actually getting more further education with their college. So it's always exciting to see that. You had Aaron Heller being your keynote speaker, which was awesome to hear, and that crowd really enjoyed that as well. And I'm looking forward to see how much it grows for next year as well. It's always exciting to see things grow in New Hampshire.
Yeah, the hard part is keynote speakers, right? Trying to find somebody, that's kind of been out there, that people recognize, that people want to come see, that's energetic, somebody that we can afford, But I think now that we've had some success, we made a tiny bit of money. I don't know how much it was, but a very small amount of money. Hopefully, we can just reinvest that into next year's conference. Nobody made any money, like physically cash money, but if we can put that $1,000 or whatever the profit was from that back into the conference next year, and maybe we can just bump it up a little bit, try to do a little something. So any suggestions out there? Happy to listen to people and understand what's happening.
So now, can you tell me a bit about where you're on for Franklin? What's the area like, and what's the department's background?
So our department has a pretty rich history. I think 1830, 1829. I think the first written document was 1830, but it was established at some point just before that. And so it's a very rich history. There's a couple books written out there by Andy Nadeau, former deputy chief, and he chronicles the whole history of the fire department, and it's pretty incredible, to see the history and where we're at today. And honestly, from a staff perspective, we haven't really grown that much. Mm-hmm. We have 3-4 people on duty depending on the day. And we're the smallest city in Franklin is the smallest city in New Hampshire, so we're not really a big community. All right. And we're comparable to Tilton and Northfield put together, and so we're sort of side by side, those two communities, for full-time staff. Stamberton has some full-time staff, but everybody else around us is call volunteer, right? And so all of our run cards have to incorporate full-time staff to make sure that we're getting somebody all the time, but we can't leave out those communities either, because they're important to us.
Sure,
they're our partners, and they've been. We've had a few fires this past year, and our mutual aid partners, even the volunteer fire ones, they've stepped up. They've been there. They've provided crews, so that's been really, really exciting to see. Honestly, departments, we all falter here and there, right? We all, we all have a recruitment and retention, problem here and there. But those guys really stepped it up this year, and I think it's been really great. So, we have to try to include all of those partners when we do our run cars. And so, like I said, Tilton Northfield's full time next door to us. So if they're not on a call, they'll come with 4.
Sure.
If we're not on a call, we'll come with 3 or 4. But if we're on a call, so we had 2 building fires back to back, October 30 for August 30th. August 31st, somewhere in there, and the fire truck, showed up driver only because the ambulance was on a medical call, and they're getting the Tilton Northfield crew. Luckily, they were not on a call, so they showed up with a crew of 4, and we had support showing up relatively quickly. But luckily, it wasn't a huge fire issue. But that's kind of a scary thing to show up on a truck with one person.
What's your staffing level at Franklin?
So we have enough firefighters to fuel 3 shifts of 4 and 1 shift of 3.
Okay.
So we rotate the bottom 3 firefighters, quarterly. So they get to go on another shift every 3 months, until we get that one more person to fill out the 4th person on shift.
Gotcha.
I think the sweet spot for a community like us, Tilton Northfield, for the number of calls we're doing, I think it's 5 people. But and
you run EMS as well.
We run EMS. Almost everybody in our area runs the EMS calls. So we have a Pennacook Rescue that does sort of that area, Canterbury. Some of the folks that don't have a full-time ambulance are full-time firefighters. So they're also a mutual aid partner through the Concord Compact area.
There's such a hot topic still about EMS and the fire service. What are your thoughts on that?
That's all I know. So I've never been on a fire department that didn't do EMS. And I think for us, that's just what we do, and that's how we do it. I think
Do you think it's like a necessary evil?
I think in our area it is. You could take it away, but you're going to pay for it, right? So now the money you're used to making, you're not making anymore. So now, any city government is all service oriented, right? You're not getting anything. You're not getting widgets. You're
Right.
getting service. So 80 to 90% of a city's budget is people,
Yeah.
and people don't necessarily like to pay for people, but that's what it is. You could pay for rocks and asphalt, but you're really paying for people to do things. And if you don't have any return, an ambulance is a return. It's a, you're getting some revenue for the work that you're doing. Not a lot of revenue, honestly, but so I think it is a necessary evil. It's what we do.
So we do.
And honestly,
Yeah.
like I said, those are the calls that give you instant gratification.
Yeah.
Right? You can go on 16 fire alarms and be like, another fire alarm. Great, that's your job. But when you go pick grandma off the floor, that she's been there for 3 hours,
Yeah.
you get some satisfaction out of helping that person
Absolutely.
immediately. So I think it is a necessary evil. Even fire departments that don't run an ambulance, they're still doing some of that stuff,
Absolutely.
and they'll get it. They'll get satisfaction out of those types of calls.
Mhm.
So I think it is important.
I just, you still hear it. It's just like, I signed up to be a firefighter, not an EMT, but especially, like for my department, I signed up for both. I knew they run both.
Sure.
And when you sign up to do that, I guess pissing and moaning about it, you signed up for that particular job. You know you're going to be doing both. And I think some people forget that. Like we do, it's helping people. Like you said, we're here to help people, whether it's an EMS call or a fire call. We're there. That's our sole purpose, is to help people. And I love the fact that you bring up like the instant gratification of helping somebody. It can be the most mundane, simple call, but to them, that was major. Like people don't want to call 911. Usually people don't want to call 911.
Some people won't call it all the time.
Some people do, and taxing resources. But I agree 100% that it is necessary, and we have it's an important job. It takes a lot of trust, and without it, unfortunately, I think some fire departments wouldn't survive without EMS.
Yeah, I think that's true. It's tough. It's tough to go from one thing to another, right? So, if you pay for something this way and you want to change the way you do it, pay for it this way, there's a cost to doing that. So it's going to cost you money to change what you do.
Yeah.
And I've seen that happen a couple times, even in my small area. People argue, hey, it would be cheaper to do it this way. Well, would it though? Because it's going to cost you, $200,000 to get it that way.
Yeah.
Or it's going to cost you $1 million or whatever just to switch, let alone, what it's going to cost you to keep going every year. So I think some people, they think it's cheaper. It's cheaper today, but it's not cheaper tomorrow when you have to pay for it.
Yeah.
Now, or when you make the switch.
Do you think it's more difficult now, or has it not changed for recruitment? Because I know we're in a deficit for medics. We're in a deficit for people wanting to do this job. Do you think that EMS, like they're not joining certain departments because they also have to do the medical side of it as well? Do you find like it's more difficult now for Franklin to recruit people? Do you have to try different ways to get them to come aboard?
I think the staff shortage in general makes it more difficult to hire people. So, in 2005, you could get 30 resumes at a small fire department for a firefighter EMT job. Now you're lucky to get 2 or 3, and one of them might be qualified.
Mm-hmm.
We were so used to hiring people fully qualified, even with some experience, or at least just coming out of college or whatever, with everything they needed. Today, there's so many job openings and there's so many people moving around that we don't have that luxury anymore. I think what we've tried to do in our department the last couple of years is hire for character. So we really talk to them about and get to know them a little bit. So everybody's required to come and do ride time. Required to meet at least 1, if not 2 shifts before they come to an interview. And yeah, that's their first interview. They come in, they do ride time. It's a little more flexible. It's a little more casual. But you really get to know somebody a little bit better. And then when they come to the interview, I think I don't think we put enough importance to how nervous somebody is. The more nervous somebody is, the more they want it, right?
Yeah.
I would think.
I would think so, yeah.
In general speaking, anyway, right? So I think when somebody's really nervous and you've already had that casual contact with them, maybe there's a way for the interviewers or the board or the panel or whoever it is to sort of sit down and be like, hey, just relax. We're okay. We've met before. This isn't a big deal. So I think when it comes to recruitment and retention, yeah, there's too many jobs out there and not enough people to fill them, not enough qualified people to fill them. There's a lot of people doing career changes into the fire service, a lot. And there's a lot of people coming out of the military. So we've had huge success with military folks and career change folks. And people that really seem to, when they make the switch, they come do some ride time and they're like, oh yeah, this is what I want to do. So what I do is when people call me, or if I have a job opening and they call and they're not qualified at all, and I'm just like, hey, you haven't done anything, there's no experience, there's zero here. I try to coach them on what all their options are to get certification, to go get classes, to figure out what the state minimum to be hired is CPAT. There's no getting around it. That's not an option. You have to have it before I hire you. So I start there. And so I have the college very close to me. So that's a resource. That's an option. Recruit school. Somebody could literally take recruit school in October, go to solo for their EMT class in November, December. It's 4 weeks long to get your EMT and their CPAT in that same time frame. And within 3 or 4 months, they're a fully qualified firefighter.
Yeah.
Or at least hireable firefighter. Now, I wouldn't say fully qualified, but they're obviously met all the minimum standards. So if somebody timed it right and had the money to do that, take time out of life for 10 weeks of recruit school, 4 weeks of EMT school, if you had the ability to do that, you could change your whole career path.
Do you think, I look at Massachusetts, you apply, you take your civil service exam, and then they send you to the academy. Do you think that works better than what we do, where you have to do everything you just said? And then, hopefully you get the job. Where you apply in Massachusetts, you take the civil service exam, you get hired, they send you to the academy, you get all that stuff, then you come back and they put you into work.
Yeah, I don't know what that costs from a department in a city that doesn't have a lot of extra money.
Yeah.
That's a change. So we just talked about a change and that costs us money. I don't know what the long-term cost would be.
I mean, that's for the state, right? I'm saying, as a state as a whole.
But if somebody took the civil service exam and then I hired them, I'm going to have to pay them to go to class, right?
Yep.
So just like probably Manchester does, they put them through their own school or right or Nashville. But if I hire them and then I pay them a salary for 10 weeks or whatever,
it's still costing you money.
What's the cost versus buying them gear and all this other stuff, and then they wash out halfway through or 3/4 of the way through, or they don't finish, or they recycle, or so there's a cost to that. What is that cost? What's the long-term cost versus the short-term cost? I don't know. I don't know if it's worth it or not.
Right, and that's why they ask these questions, because it's different. And I'm
police do the same thing, right?
Right.
So they hire them. They might be on the job for a year, not certified. And then they go to the police academy. Yeah. Then they come out, if they come out, and then they go back to their PTO or their not their PTO, but their
FTO.
Their FTO, yeah, sorry. So they're training officer, and they finish out their training officer time, and now they're a police officer. Right. So it works for them. So that would be an interesting study. So if anybody's in their executive fire officer class, maybe they could do that.
That's a good project right there.
That's an excellent project.
EFO right there.
Because there probably is a long-term benefit.
Yeah.
Long-term, it probably is better. Or maybe it's not. Maybe it's a wash.
Right. Just thinking, I know that's always a big hot topic. It's not just New Hampshire. I know it's pretty much everywhere. But that we're trying to figure out what can we do to get bodies into the seats. And unfortunately, it's just like that. We're trying to find bodies in a way. And is there another way that we can look outside the box and try to think to the future of, is this working for us? Sure.
So this is what I've been trying to do. So all those people that come to me or apply and aren't qualified, this is where I was kind of going, is I implore chiefs across the state to do this, because the more people we find a way to help get into the fire service, the smaller that pool becomes. I mean, the bigger that pool becomes, and the smaller our unemployment becomes, right?
Yeah.
So if somebody comes to me and they're really interested, and I help them, and I tell them, hey, I'm going to continue helping you. I want to help you get into the fire service. If I can help you today, and that benefits me to hire you in the future, great. If it benefits me because you get hired somewhere else, and now that's one less spot I'm competing against, even better.
Yeah.
So, like, I just want to get you in the fire service. And if I can benefit me, great. But if I can benefit the fire service, that still benefits me eventually.
Yeah.
In the city of Franklin. So if we just pay a little bit more attention to those people knocking on the door, and don't just shove them under the carpet or say, yeah, I don't have anything, you're not qualified. If we just have conversations with them and be nice to them, maybe offer them another ride time or a ride time. Like, hey, come ride a shift for 4 hours, 6 hours, whatever. And do you even like it?
Yeah.
Are you going to like going to grandma's, on the floor?
I love it.
With her mess and everything else.
Because you also have like the camaraderie of it as well. I mean, when we do ride-alongs in my department, we have them there all day, because we just don't want them to see the calls, but we want them to see the truck checks, the morning interactions between the crews, the breakfast, and the dinners. Like, we want them to be able to sit down, break bread with us, and experience that camaraderie, because that's usually what gets people to go, I want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And if you have a good culture in your firehouse, that's when people who are looking for those jobs, or especially a career change, be like, yeah, I want that camaraderie. I want that brotherhood. I want that sisterhood. You guys are so awesome. And you made me feel welcome. And I'm all about it. I'm in. That's what I think is going to keep people going through the door. It's like, I always consider us as, we're a company, right? Mm-hmm. You have Yelp reviews, and if you have disgruntled employees leave, they're going to leave a bad review, sure, and nobody's going to want to come back. And the same thing with people come to the door for to do ride time, and they're just testing the waters. Does the food taste good? Does it not taste good? And I think that if it's a very dry department and they don't have a good culture, that outside person's going to see it and go, I think I'm all set.
I've definitely had people say, hey, I've ridden with some other departments all across the state, even like several times, and tell me that was the best experience they ever had.
That means a lot.
We also do EMS ride time for students, so we have a contract with a bunch of different
people.
Oh,
nice.
And sometimes it's hard to accommodate them all, but I usually get, during class season, whatever dates those are, I usually get anywhere from 4 to 10 different people that need different ride times for their EMS, and we've actually gotten firefighters from those EMS ride times.
That's awesome.
People that didn't even know they were interested in the fire service at the time. So
I think that's
pretty exciting.
So amazing that you guys are utilizing that. Like, that's again, you have to be creative with your recruitment process and figure out how you're going to get people through those doors, and that's a big part of it. I've known departments also that are utilizing the online education that the academy now provides is on my time, or on your time. That's been working. What are your thoughts on it? Because we have some people that in my department, or one person in particular, who's actually done really well with it. We tried something out, trying to think outside the box. We did something different. It worked. He did all of his education and training through us while doing the online portion of it, and all the hands-on stuff we helped him with. Mm-hmm. And he's a full-blown employee now.
So I did that one time with one of my current employees. He came with everything he needed except Fire 2. He needed Fire 2. So we did it at the firehouse. Almost everything on the list for Fire 2, it's just a little bit shorter than Fire 1. So all the skills we do right there, we do vehicle extrication. The only thing we couldn't do was the gas propane. So we just went down to the fire academy. I put out a call out to anybody else that wanted to go. Got just enough people to run a class. The fire academy gives you 2 free prop uses a year. So that was one of them for us. And they give you an operator, and you just got to find somebody that's a qualified instructor to sign off on it. And so I think the program is good. I think it has value. I think it has challenges. Mm-hmm. And I think the fire academy is working through some of that for those people that are in the programs. But more and more people right now are doing some stuff out in the field. I was just speaking to another person from sort of the mid-central part of the state, and he's holding, I think it's a Fire 2 on my own time, with 5 or 6 people that approached him saying, hey, I want to get this, but I don't really have the convenient opportunity to take a class. So he's doing the skills portion with them. And I think as long as you're getting a quality person, doing the teaching, it's the same instruction. So, and you have to follow the same rules they do with any other class. So I think there has value. Not everybody. I think, I think there's some challenges, especially with Fire One, because there's some offshoots of classes like
Yeah.
hazmat, forestry. There's things that somebody has to kind of go out of their way to figure out and
Yeah.
get somebody into to doing that. But they can get everything else done. And I think with a smaller class group or instructor to student ratio, we probably even in some cases, in most cases, get a better quality instruction.
I agree. I know that for my neck of the woods here in the Southwest, there's been departments that have been really utilizing that program a lot, and they have in their own department they'll have like 5 people, especially kids, utilize that program, and then they do a whole big group of training to get them all signed off.
Yeah.
It's definitely working. Like you said, there's some kinks in it, but I love the fact that the academy has been doing great with wanting feedback. They've been listening to the feedback from what I can see, and they're like I said, they're currently working on making it better every day. So I think again, that's an out of the box thinking of like, how can we get people to get their education in the fire service, to get them to the departments that need help. And I think that's a commendable way to try to get that going.
Yeah, I think we tried to I think the fire academy tried to rush certain things like instructor and fire officer, and we need to do more classes. We have to do more class, more class, more class. Well, you don't have enough instructors to do that, and so trying to force 2 or 3 people to do all of those classes, one, you're going to lose quality instruction. 2, you're just going to lose the instructor.
Yeah.
And now you're not going to be able to do any classes. So I think we tried to push too much too fast because we were behind the 8 ball, especially coming out of COVID. We weren't doing anything.
Yeah.
Nothing was happening. Programs have to be revamped. In some cases, they have been redone, and they're pretty good. But you can't do 6 classes with just 3 instructors. That are 6 months long.
Yeah.
Or 2 months long. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Now, we talked about recruitment. Now, what about retention? There's a lot of departments too. Like we've had people coming in with career changes, but there's also people leaving because they don't want to do this anymore. And, we use the retirement thing a lot. The retirement system was wonky, so a lot of people were leaving because of that. I think honestly, I see more of the younger crowd looking sometimes shifting somewhere else. How do you retain, or how do you work on retention for your department?
I think it comes down to the C word, culture. And that's a tough word to define because there's culture, there's macro cultures and micro cultures and mini cultures and subcultures. But I think you have to have, and you said it earlier, you want those people that are coming to ride time to feel like part of the institution, part of the organization, part of the company, part of the family. I think if we can instill that somehow, and for every department it's different, right? That sense of family is going to be different for every dynamic group of people, right? So I think finding a way to make that work in your fire department. And I learned about mission and vision statements 35 years ago in college, and I learned about it again when I was a manager at a business. I learned about it again when I got in the fire service. I learned about it again when I became a fire officer. But we always brush it aside as kind of meaningless, whatever. It's just words. It's not just words, really. That's what. If we lose track of why we're here, our mission statement. If we lose track of why we're here, and we're no longer having any fun, then you're no longer acting like a family. You've lost your culture. Yeah. And it's happened to almost every fire department across the country. Has or is happening or will happen, unless they can really focus on that. And there's books and all kinds of stuff written about this. I took a class through Primex, and I don't know the guy's name, but he was awesome. And he just explained culture in a way that just seemed to make a little bit more sense. And, if we don't get along or we don't talk, then we'll always have some sort of friction, and then we won't get along, and somebody won't be happy. And if you're not happy anywhere, then it's not going to be fun for you. If it's no longer fun for you, you're not going to want to do it.
Yeah.
So that's one of my things. I want you to have fun. How can I make it fun for you? That's what I do when I try to teach. I try to, sometimes we're there for business, but we can be there for fun too. I love to hear the guys laughing down the hallway or out in the bay, while they're packing hose, right? The best things happen when you're packing hose after a fire or
Yeah.
after training. People talk. They talk while they're packing hose. And that's some of the best times as a chief anyway, is if you hear your people out there having fun, there is no better feeling for you. Really.
Yeah. So, and I love that you say that. I think that's so key. Is that I think also like retention is culture and it's also leadership. As a leader, you want your team to grow, to be a family, to be a whole group that's going to love each other and care about each other and want to come to work and not think of it as a chore. And I think sometimes that does come because it could be mundane and boring, target solutions on top of target solutions and, some other boring training you might have to do. But, if you have good leadership too, that actually cares about their people. And like you said, I want to hear them laughing in the bay.
Sure.
I want to see them smiling. And I just talked about this in my last episode is, Chief Sturm out of Apopka, Florida. He's a man that loves and cares for his crew, for his department so much. And like what you just explained is literally like the same thing is you have to love and care for your crew to develop that good positive culture because they're going to want to keep coming back. And it seems like for you, is that the part of leadership that you also implement on your department? Because it seems like you do.
Well, I think that's the goal. Are we successful? 100% of the time, no. Like I'm sure there's times where people don't feel appreciated or we fail as leaders, between the chief and I, if we haven't gone out to say hello for a couple of weeks, they notice that stuff, right? So if we don't show up at the table sometimes, or if we're too busy, to say hello or play cribbage or whatever it is that you do at the table for, 10, 15 minutes or 20 minutes or, if you're not present, then you can lose it. And look, we can get buried in the stuff that we do every day. The mundane, silly little stuff that shields them so they could just do their work, right? If there were no chiefs and firefighters and EMTs went up and went and just did their work, the world would keep moving.
Yeah.
Right? Our job is really just to filter through all that other stuff so that they can have fun with their job. And sometimes we need help from them. And so sometimes it's hard to shield them from everything, or sometimes we just don't shield them because we lose track or we forget or we get lazy. But that's our job, and our job is to try to make it so that they can go do the things that are fun. But sometimes they got to do things that aren't fun, right? Just like any job. And as long as they can keep laughing through it and having a good time and keep supporting each other, and obviously we want them to know that we support them. And if we fail, let us know we fail, and we should be able to receive that information. Yeah. Hey, Chief, you're failing a little bit.
Well,
Great. I'll try to fix that.
And you said it earlier too. You said appreciation. Show that you appreciate their hard work. That they're coming. I don't expect everyone to get a slap on the back because they, a pat on the back because they showed up to work today. But again, a little appreciation goes a long way. I mean, just say, thanks for doing this today. Or thanks to that. Like that keeps them smiling, keeps them wanting to come in because my chief actually cares about what I'm doing. He just said a good job. It was really nice. Or, hey, good shift. See you tomorrow. Whatever it might be, that carries a lot of weight. When it doesn't necessarily have to be chiefs either, whether it's a lieutenant, a captain, deputy chiefs, when they don't say anything, like you said, sometimes they get preoccupied with other things. When they walk onto that floor and they're pissed off as soon as they walk in the door and you can see it on their face, the crew is going to start grumbling, the crew is going to start speculating. And then if it continues to happen, well, then why do I want to keep coming back to a place that's just, this guy, I have to avoid him and I have to avoid the other person. And it drips down like cancer.
Yeah. If you have to avoid somebody at work, then, somebody's a problem.
Yeah.
So somebody somewhere needs to either be corrected or move on. And so look, sometimes people have to move on. Not every place is the right place for everybody. And sometimes people can be there for years and they not realize that they just needed to be somewhere else. And I listened to some podcasts and I don't even remember them all, but I've heard people on podcasts that were 15, 20 years in the fire service went to be a probie somewhere because their fire department changed in a way they couldn't stand it anymore. So they found a fire department nearby that met their personal culture standards, and they were telling their story about how happy they were that they did that. It doesn't matter that they're a probie after 20 years. It matters that they love the job they're doing.
That they're happy.
And they're people that they're with, right? So, if somehow in the retention, part of this wrap up, somewhere in the retention, if you can figure out that formula, I don't think there's one magic thing.
No, there isn't.
I think you have to understand, who your people are, who their kids are, who their wives are, what motivates them. Some people are motivated by money and need money to do overtime. Some people want to just do training. Some people want to just get their families together. Can you figure out a way to put that together? One of my firefighters asked me I think it was yesterday or the day before. He wants to do a training where he literally gets people together for a cookout, and they do some sort of skills training, and then the families come together, and then afterwards they all, have food and, drinks.
I love it.
And that's a great idea. How do you put that together as a fire department function or training?
Sure.
And still have the fun. You want to have fun with it. And some people might still want to get paid, but maybe they don't. I don't know. I think it's a great idea. How do we make that happen? And I hope, whether you listen to this or not, I hope that we can find a way to put something like that together, because it wasn't just for our department. It was for other departments in our area. For example, somebody that might have a specific skill group that never does training, like ropes, or even just simple firefighter skills, right? So I think if there's a way to find a way to put that all together in a way that your department gets value out of it.
What I love, though, is that you didn't squash the idea. You knew it was going to take some work. You knew it was going to take some time and work out the logistics of it, but it wasn't, I don't like that idea. It's not going to work. That's going to be too much work. That's not going to work. That's, again, that you're killing that drive and ambition. And that's that leadership. That's that culture is like, I love the idea. Let's work on it some more. Let's see what we can come up with. Make a plan, come back to me, and we'll work it out.
The hard thing with ideas is somebody has to follow through.
Yeah.
Right? So, and as part of a training committee, we have a lot of ideas sometimes. But if somebody isn't willing to follow through, then it falls on one person. And that's where that person gets burnt out. Or that person says, well, I'm not going to do that because it's not my list. It's not the top of my list, right? So I'm not going to do that. So I think we have to, again, if you're a firefighter out there and you have a great idea, and even if somebody says, hey, it's a great idea, but I don't know how you're going to do it, you got to keep working on that.
Yeah.
First of all, never accept no as an answer. There's always a way, even if it's not the exact way you want, or sometimes maybe just no today, but not no next year. Or, maybe you pitch something to your officer corps, and you're a firefighter, and you're like, hey, officers, can we do this? What do you think of this? Just keep talking about it. And then eventually somebody else might say, hey, let's do this. And they'll say, yeah, let's do it. And you'll be like, I just said that. It was like 2 months ago. But that's okay. You don't need the credit. Right. And, we like the credit, but we don't need the credit. If your idea gets implemented, even though it comes from somebody else, take the win.
I love it.
It's a win, right? Yeah. Just because it wasn't, accepted as your idea, or somebody twists it to make it work in a way that is manageable, but don't accept no as an answer. That's my mantra for today. Don't accept no as an answer. There's always a way to do something. If you personally want to accomplish something, there's a way.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know what that way is, but there's a way.
But I love that you just, you're not knocking them down though. Like, yeah, we'll figure out a way. You, again, don't give up. You follow through, and we'll keep coming back to it and see where you're at. I think that's fantastic to have leaders that actually want to keep that going, that imagination going, and that ambition to come up with new ideas for training or recruitment or retention, and because we've got a lot going on.
Yeah. And it doesn't get any better, right? Everything just gets piled on and piled on and piled on and piled on.
As we're winding down, though, the other question I have for you is, what do you guys do for succession planning, or how do you plan for succession planning? Because again, we do have these issues, and we're not getting as much qualified as you will coming in, and people might move up so quickly that they might not have what people consider the right experience or time on. How do you do the succession planning before all of a sudden you go, oh crap, I don't have anybody. What do I do now?
So succession planning is very hard, right? So first of all, I'll tell anybody that wants to be a chief who's currently an officer or maybe even a firefighter, if you're not having fun in that job, then maybe look for another job. But when you become a chief, it's no longer the same job.
Yeah.
So when you become a firefighter to an officer, I think what we try to do is we do have a mentor policy and a mentor program, and not that it necessarily gets followed to the T, but there's something out there where firefighters can be mentored. There's a list of things to like learn and make sure you understand. It's not that all that different from your probationary manual.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, can you do this? Can you do this? Okay, now can you do the shift schedule? Now can you do some other thing? Oh, hey, can you ride up in the right front seat? If you're not riding up in the right front seat with your officer driving or in the back or whatever, I know Concord does it, or at least some people in Concord do it. My old department did it. I did it. I know our captains currently will do it if they're trying to mentor somebody, because we have a master firefighter position, minimum 5 years full time, minimum 2 years with the Franklin Fire Department. So they have some experience,
Mm-hmm.
and a master firefighter could work up as an officer. So yes, we have a program where they start learning some of that stuff and start doing it with their officer. And so the officers, yes, we've had to promote young officers. I was promoted as a young officer, and I had to self-learn stuff. Now, my chief taught me a lot of stuff too, and other people around me taught me a lot of stuff, but I had to learn a lot of stuff. And that's why I became an instructor again, because I was going to learn from so many other people, and I did learn from so many other people. Made a lot of acquaintances across the fire service. Mentored. So basically, we want people to have had some experience running calls, right? We want people. So even if somebody is promoted to master firefighter, but they're still younger, and so they still have a lot of experiences, they still haven't filled out all of the paperwork sometimes, or whatever. It's the officer's job to model them, to help them out, to allow them to do something. Firefighters, hey, I'm not going to reset this fire alarm panel. Firefighters come here. This is what we're doing. This is what this panel looks like. Building walkthroughs, and all that takes time, and depending on your staff and how seasoned you are, it gives you more or less time to do that. But as far as succession planning for chiefs, that's even harder. So, and this is where I was going. If you're an officer and your body starts to give out, that's about when you probably should start thinking about being a chief officer. Now, depending on the size of your department, that could be battalion chief, right? The job as you move up is a little less physically demanding.
Yeah.
Not that you might have to do the same things the other guys have to do for a shorter period of time or less often, right? But it's a lot less physically demanding.
Yeah.
So I think if you're not, 15, 16 years, 17 years in the fire service, and your body's healthy and you're in the right front seat, God, don't leave.
Yeah.
Like that's my thing. If you're having fun in that job, don't leave just because you want to be a chief. Who cares? You don't have to be a chief to be a good person or a good leader. But if there's a point in time where you're no longer as good because of that, or because of physical abilities or whatever, and you're a good officer, that's a great time to be chief, assistant chief, battalion chief, whatever it is, fire chief in some cases. I think some people are promoted so young because the opportunity's there, and it's a great opportunity. But if you're a chief for 15 years, if you're only in the fire service for 10 years and you become a chief, think about that. That's a long time to be in one job. Even if you change departments, it's just a long time to be doing that same thing over and over again. It's not really much different. Like, there's different things about it, but I would think it no longer becomes fun.
Because it's just more paperwork, more politics, more of that stuff. Like every shift is usually different, and you go to the office and it's filling out paperwork or payroll or whatever else you got to do.
So I think from a deputy chief and a chief standpoint for succession planning, I think it is important, but I think it's also hard because if you have young officers, you don't necessarily want them to learn some of that stuff yet.
Yeah.
But if the chief leaves tomorrow and I leave tomorrow, who's going to fill that role? We'd love for it to be somebody in the department, but now they're not ready. So they have to want to learn something from us that we do in our role. And if you're not ready, you're not necessarily seeking that out. So at some point, your older folks, if they're not going to retire out and they are going to be promotable, you do have to have some sort of discussion with them. And whether so in our case, I have a chief, and then there's myself, and then I have 4 captains. So at some point, we should be reaching out to them, right, and talking to them, saying, hey, what's your interest in learning this one thing? We can do it over through 3 shifts, 4 shifts, whatever. There's no rush. And then, what's your interest in this? And if they're not interested, that's okay, because they're not ready yet. But at some point, when you've been a captain for 10 years and your body starts to ache, that's probably the point where you want to, want to learn some other stuff. And, if you're interested, not everybody's interested, and that's okay. But if somebody's interested in being a chief, and then they should also reach out to us, right? So like, don't take no for an answer. If you want to do something or learn something, come ask.
Yeah.
Right. So we have to remember to ask, and they have to remember to ask.
I love it.
So from that perspective, that's my version of a succession plan for chiefs. We have a plan for master firefighters, and we have a plan from firefighters, master firefighters to go to officers, which is that same sort of mentor role. But sometimes when you lose officers, and you got to pick, and they're qualified people. Don't get me wrong. Many people are great young officers.
Yeah.
And we have a couple that are, all of my officers are great. Right. But there's a couple that are younger and weren't in the fire service that long, which is just very similar to me. And they're still great officers. They had to learn, their own way. Some people were in the fire service a little bit longer than I was, right, as call folks or students or explorers or whatever. So that helps them too, right?
Yeah.
Every experience helps. So
I love it. Yeah, that was great.
Sometimes you got to promote young, and you don't hold it back. When you meet those folks, don't look down on them. They're doing the same job you're doing.
Yeah.
And they're just doing it because they have to. Right?
Yep, 100%. I love it. Man, what a great conversation. I really appreciate it, Chief. I appreciate you being here. Yeah, this was a blast. I'm so glad we got to do this in person too. It changes up what I do talking to a phone just by myself up here. So
I don't think I could like that either.
So I really appreciate it. What a great conversation. So we're going to be closing it up. Is there anything that you want to give for advice to anybody else? You dropped a lot of good advice. Is there anything else that before we wrap up?
I would say, in this job, it can be dangerous. It's not always, but it can be, at the split second. You got to find a way to have fun, and you got to find a way to get along with the people around you, right? So you don't have to like everybody, but you do have to work with them, and you do have to find a way to just get along. And your culture, if your whole department is against you, or their culture is just not what you like, go find, and this happens a lot. I think that's why people are moving around a lot more.
Yeah.
Go find a culture that works for you. Find a department that is doing what you want to do. We've had our growing pains just like everybody else.
Yeah.
And so we have to find our place. Every person has to find their place. If somebody wants to leave to go to another department, I never hold it against them. They have to do what's right for them.
Yeah, you don't make them feel guilty.
No, like I think some people want us to say, "Oh, please stay, please stay, please stay." Look, if you're asking me to leave, that's because you want to, not because I want you to.
Yeah.
I don't want you to leave necessarily, but if you're going to go for you and your family, God bless you. Like, just take care of yourself.
I love it. Absolutely. Now, so as we wind up, you're going to have you're doing the New Hampshire Fire Conference. So that will be obviously next September
12th. Yeah.
September 12th. So we'll be looking out for that. Well, I'll be promoting that to everybody. Once that opens up, they'll be looking for presenters and instructors. So next year in September, keep an eye open for that. And so you can get your presentations in or lectures or whatever else you want to do. Chief David Hall of Franklin, I really appreciate you being here on the C.A.N Report. Thank you all for tuning in. Make sure you, again, subscribe, let me know you like what's going on. And with that, y'all take care, be safe, and I want you to say it with me.
Oh, I'll get it wrong.
Nozzle top.
Nozzle top.
Nozzle
Okay,
top.
nozzle top.
Thank you all for tuning in to the C.A.N Report. Before we wrap up, I want to give a big shout out to our sponsor, Engine House Designs. They're a firefighter-owned, family-operated business that's been repping the fire service since 2021. Engine House Designs specializes in custom firefighter apparel, hats, hoodies, t-shirts, plus decals, flags, and patches. Whether you're looking for a single shirt or outfitting your whole department, they've got you covered with bulk pricing and top-tier quality. Their mission? Simple. To ignite the pride in firefighters across the country. Check them out on Instagram, Facebook, or visit enginehousedesigns.com. Engine House Designs. Ignite the pride.